Zoe Hicks is an attorney and author of 6 books, an inspirational speaker, and a true next level philanthropist. She is here today to inspire us and to help us think like a philanthropist. Let go. Zoe Hicks, welcome to Uncommon Philanthropist.
Thank you, Rena. It is a privilege and pleasure to be here today.
It is so good to see you again. And I love the fact that we were introduced by strangers, but then I discovered I've actually met you before. When I saw your face, I was like, I have met that woman before. And it's truly a delight to connect with you and learning more about your background. You are an attorney, a published author of 6 books, an inspirational guest speaker, and a true philanthropist. So wow, you are just living a full and rich life, and we're going to get into all of that today on Uncommon Philanthropist. So thank you for sharing your time and for your heart, and we want to know what your secret sauce is.
Well, a secret sauce, I'll tell you, 2 Corinthians 3:5. My sufficiency is of God. So I just say, Lord, I don't know what I'm doing here, but you do. So just help me to do the best I can do. And he always does. So that's my secret sauce.
Oh, well, that's a beautiful way to kick us off. So I would love to learn a little bit more about where you grew up. I think I read you grew up born in Des Moines, Iowa.
My dad was stationed there during World War II, and he was training pilots there. But my parents quickly moved back to Atlanta, where both of them are from, and I grew up in Atlanta. So I was just in Des Moines a short time, but I was born there.
And you went for quite a big career as an attorney, a real estate law attorney, correct? Tell us kind of what the path was to do that.
Well, first of all, I married an attorney. So he and his friends would talk about their cases, and I would think, gee, that is so interesting. And I did major in history in college and took some constitutional law courses. So I had that kind of background. And then I thought, well, why can't I do that? So I decided to apply to law school and was accepted at Emory. That was really at the time the only law school in Atlanta. Now we have Georgia State, but Athens at University of Georgia was a little too far for a regular commute. So Emory was about the only option, but it's a very good law school. So I applied to Emory, was accepted, and went through law school and found out that my very best course of all the courses that I took was tax law, surprisingly, but I'd always loved math. So that was good. I found that interaction or intersection rather between law and the math that I had always loved. So I thought, well, tax law, but there is a subsection of tax law, estate law, which involves estate tax planning and also involves interacting with people in a
Yes.
very real and personal way. And so I thought, well, that might be something I would really enjoy. So the section I loved the most was estate planning and tax planning. So I told him that. Now, this particular law firm that I happened to be with at the time was simply not interested in adding anybody in that department. So they said, if you really want to do that, you're going to have to go somewhere else. But by that time, I figured out that's where I belonged and I really needed to be there. So I left that firm and went to another firm and did estate planning there. But I had a lot to learn.
Oh,
And
I'm
in
sure.
fact, I had to go back and get a master's of law in tax to continue to do it at the level that I wanted to do it. But I did that, and then after being in the new firm a couple of years, one of the other attorneys there said, "Well, let's just start our own firm." So I thought, "Well, okay, we'll just do that." We started a new firm, our own firm, and I particularly loved the charitable estate planning part of that area of practice. because that gave me the opportunity to help clients make charitable gifts. And that to me was just super thrilling. And that one of the reasons, Rena, that I wanted to do that, not only is it exciting to help people make major charitable gifts, but also what I had learned in law school that I had never known before was simply, and this was because my husband and I were up against a financial wall when I started to law school. He was a brand new attorney with his own firm, and he didn't really have any clients to speak of. So we had no income and Emory tuition, which was a private school and not cheap. So I thought, man, I don't know how we're going to do this financially. Well, we'd heard about this thing called tithing, and we thought, well, maybe if we started tithing, it says in the Bible here that God would open the windows of heaven and pour out a blessing so great we won't have room enough to take it in. So if we start tithing, maybe God will really do that. Then we'll have enough money to pay our bills. So we didn't have any money, but we said if we ever got any money, we'd give 10% to the church and see what happened. So the next thing that happened, and I had just started to law school. The next thing that happened was my mother-in-law decided that she was going to even up the score. She had spent more on her daughter's education than her son's education, and she wanted to be perfectly fair. She did not want one child to get more than the other child. So she wrote my husband a check for the difference in what she spent educating her daughter and her son. And I mean, we thought that was, it was probably like $2,000, but we thought it was a fortune. So we said, okay, we're going to give $200 to the church. So we did. We gave $200 to the church. And we continued anytime we got any money to give 10% to the church because that's all we knew to do. Well, I will tell you that those 3 years of law school were a financial miracle, and I am not kidding. I remember one time tuition was due on Monday and we just didn't have it. And Friday afternoon, I said, okay, God, this is it. If you want me to quit law school, then I will, but I don't have the money to continue. And I told him like X dollars by Monday morning. And then after I prayed, I thought, oh dear, I forgot the tithe. I forgot to add in the tithe so that after I tithed, I'd have X dollars. I thought, well, God knows. So this is the truth. I went to the mailbox Monday, and an aunt in New York that we almost never saw decided she was going to help us because she'd heard about this crazy thing we were doing. And she wrote us this check. And that check was the exact amount that after tithe was the tuition due that day.
My word.
So after this experience in law school, you can see why I was really interested in charitable estate planning and helping people understand that this is a great thing to do. It's a win-win situation.
That is such a great story and such an example of how I believe God is in the micro of our lives, and He is there for us and wants us to succeed, and He uses His people to make it happen. So that is just incredible.
He's amazing.
He provides. He provides.
That's
So
right.
that is fantastic. So let's talk a little bit about where we've just lost my father-in-law recently, and we're kind
I'm
of going
sorry.
through.
I'm very sorry.
He lived an amazing 96 years, and, what a gift to have him for so long, but, the reality is when somebody passes away and has any assets, you have to, the heirs go through the process of liquidating the assets, and
Yes.
just the importance of that estate plan for whether you have a whole lot of assets or very few assets. Don't you believe that's important for everybody to kind of think that through and to have a good
Absolutely.
plan as you approach the end of your life?
Absolutely. It's such a gift to the family. If you can just, of course, have the documents, the will, the financial power of attorney, the healthcare power of attorney, just stating your preferences and the powers of attorney, and then the will or the revocable living trust. Some people will use that for different reasons, and just name the executor, list where you want the assets to go, and then nobody has to go through the process of the state ordained determination of where assets go if you don't have a will or a revocable living trust. Every state has a plan. Every state has a will for you if you don't have your own will. It's the bottom
Exactly.
line. And you probably wouldn't like it. But anyway, people don't realize this. So it's a huge gift to the family to do that estate planning. And
A lot of people
it's not just the big stuff, the money and the real estate, the stocks and bonds, but the personal effects I find are very important to the family, the sentimental things. It could be pictures, it could be jewelry, it could be furniture, who knows? But sometimes the biggest fights are over those kinds of items. And if the parent has specified who gets what, or even specified a plan for determining that, like the children draw straws and everybody picks in order of the straws that they drew or something like that, it makes a huge difference. Now, another good thing to do is to leave letters to the children or the spouse or the loved ones, just stating how much they meant to you during life. These things are so special. If you can think about, your father-in-law, for example, I don't know if he did that, but just think about what a letter from him would have meant to you and your husband and to your children and grandchildren, etcetera. So those things are so precious.
that is such a wonderful example, and and talking about philanthropy, I mean, you wanna you respect and take care of your and serve your family first and foremost, so that is such a beautiful way to say goodbye.
That it really is. Absolutely.
I love that. Okay, so how many years did you work as an attorney? And then what made you transition to really dedicating your life to inspiring other people?
Goodness, well, let's see. I worked over 30 years as an attorney. I still do a little bit. We have clients that they're just dear friends, and so we still help them out. But I guess I wanted just to transition into encouraging people to do what we just talked about, for one thing, to leave good estate planning documents, but also these what we call ethical wills, these letters, love letters to the family left with the traditional legal document because they're so special. I wanted to write about things that I had experienced just through the power of prayer, through all of the years that I spent in financial meetings with financial planners and accountants and clients, just kind of passing some of that, the stewardship of money on. So I guess I just wanted to leave a legacy that was greater than drafting documents. It's the
So
30 years.
that was your first book, correct? And what was the title? What is the title of that book?
The first book that I wrote was the Women's Estate Planning Guide. And that was a guide for women who survived their husbands and really didn't know what to do. But then when I transitioned, the first inspirational book was Dancing in the Rain, which is um, how we use our faith to really just have the abundant life that God wants us to have. So
And to
that was
not
when I first transitioned into more of an inspirational type of profession or hobby or whatever you call it.
yeah. So did you do speaking when you were an attorney? Did you do public speaking as well?
Did. I enjoyed it because anytime you do it, it forces you to learn whatever you're talking about. You've got to learn about it. You've got to really get it in your head. So it was a good education for me to do the speaking. So I did that and spoke at, legal conferences, tax conferences. And then after I transitioned, I enjoyed and still do love to speak to women's groups, church groups, seniors groups, youth groups, any group. It's just fun to be with them and to hear where they are and fellowship with them as whatever program they're doing. So that's always fun.
The fact that you've written 6 books is quite amazing. We had a guest speaker at Rotary that was a publishing associate, and she was talking about how many people have the desire to write a book. I mean, it is a very high percentage of people in the
Yeah.
US that they wanna write a book. I mean, it's like 80% or something. But then
Mm,
she went on to say the amount of people, that percentage of people who actually write the book and then publish it, it's like a tiny percentage of that. So, amazing work that you didn't do it just one time, but 6 times. I'm in the middle of my first 2 books, and it's a commitment.
yes, but it's exciting. Are you enjoying it?
Oh my gosh, yes. And I've just for me, I've had to carve out the time. God gave me the idea. And then, just it started small. I just put the idea down on paper.
Yes.
Um, then I was like, "Okay, well, I guess I gotta write it now." And it's
Right.
been writing on it for a year and a half, so
Good for
kinda
you.
ready kinda ready to wrap it up, but I'm still a few months away. It's been a gift to be able to kinda just, you know, get when you have ideas in your head and then to be able to get it on paper. It's,
Yes.
um, it's really I don't know if it's fulfilling is the word or if it's like it's really a gift to be able to do that.
Do you have working titles for your books?
I do. My first big book, it's devotional of type. It's called The Beatitudes: The Handbook for Life.
Nice.
And based on the Beatitudes found in the gospel, but then it's actionable BE attitudes, really kind of just, it's really kind of my handbook for a fulfilled and rich life. And
Mm,
it's some of them are kind of, hugely aspirational and some of them are very tactical, like be organized. It's
mm.
disorganization is chaos for everybody. I mean, you cannot deny that. So, just
That's
kinda
so
digging into
exciting.
why is that important for a full, rich life, You waste so much time when you're, like, looking for stuff that you
Well,
can't
that
find.
is so exciting. So I'll look forward on Amazon.
Okay.
Do you have a target completion date?
Yeah, this year probably later this year.
Good,
And then I have
okay.
a children's book in the works called Maxine's Joy, based on my mom's life, and I lost my mom to Alzheimer's almost 28 years ago. And in launching this platform, I, never really did anything to celebrate my mom's life, and I always said I would, and I called myself out just talking about it, and then it was you have those moments, and it's like, "Okay,
Yeah,
stop talking, do something." So, that something is a children's book based on my mom's life,
that's great.
and her
You
joy
are
is really what made her most special, and her joy prevailed. She lived during the Great Depression
yeah,
in Oklahoma where it just
mm,
she had to leave school and work in the fields, but to meet my mother, you would just see joy. And how
yeah,
does joy prevail when you have such a hard draw in life for
yeah.
to
Well,
get
that's
started?
honoring to your mother and will be a blessing to the children, I'm sure. That
And all
is terrific.
proceeds from that book will go to Alzheimer's support. It's been fun. So those are my 2 book babies in the works.
That's wonderful. Well, congratulations to you. Like I say,
Oh,
I'll look for them on Amazon later
okay.
this year.
Well, wait
Later
till
this
they're published.
Okay,
I'm
I'll wait.
still in that 80% category that
No, you're not gonna stay there. You're moving along. That's fantastic.
think, Zoe.
That is
Well,
so
let's
good.
talk about your philanthropy work. You know, this is called Uncommon Philanthropist, and the hope is to inspire people who really haven't had exposure to philanthropy, hadn't really thought about, you know, what philanthropy is. A lot of people can't even say the word. It's like most people think, seriously, they're like, "What's the name of your podcast?" And the root word of philanthropy is love of humanity.
Mhm.
So the giving is one part of it, but there's a whole lot of different aspects of it, and
Mm.
I think you're a true philanthropist in so many ways. So maybe if you can just kind of help people understand, why is it so important to be having philanthropic strategy for your life? Why should everybody embrace philanthropy in some form or fashion?
Well, I mean, of course, as we know, when we are let's just take something very simple. We give someone a gift, and we get so excited because we see them enjoy the gift, we see them appreciate the gift, appreciated us for giving the gift. So, as the Bible says, it's better to give than receive. So, we'll start with that principle. It's a blessing, first of all. It's a blessing to give. And it's a blessing to give at any level. And there are different kinds of philanthropy. I mean, we start maybe with just kindness, and it doesn't even have to be money at that level. It can just be helping someone out or smiling, giving, providing encouragement, compliments, whatever. Just little acts of kindness is one level. And then, we can move up to where we just want to benefit our church, benefit a charity that we believe in. Like for you, Alzheimer's research to help eliminate and eradicate that disease. And so that's certainly, they can't do the research without those dollars. I mean, it's great to say, yes, I support Alzheimer's research, but they can't do the research without money. So they have to get those dollars in there so that they can find that cure that we're all hoping for. And then, of course, at the highest level, philanthropy is like endowing research, have grants, major grants at colleges and universities. And just when you have large gifts to give, you can specify, I want this to go to provide an endowed share at a university in this field so that that university has the very best instruction in that area. Or I want this to go to research for ovarian cancer. Just choose a type, whatever. You really have the opportunity with large levels in philanthropy to say what you want to do that is more than just donating some dollars to, and everything is important. I mean, every penny is important. But I mean, the people who get into those kinds of things can specify that they want cancer research done, they want Alzheimer's research done, they want whatever, whatever wherever their heart is. So that's kind of what we were doing in the charitable estate planning area, setting up those kinds of funds that would be always throwing off income, those endowments. That's different from just giving the dollars that can be used today. You set up the fund and it throws off income for in perpetuity to fund the researcher, fund the professor's salary that he needs to come to the university to be the very best instruction in that area. So there are really a lot of wonderful techniques that can be used, whatever the donor's desire is, whether it's just to give it all to charity, whatever amount they're going to give, or whether they want to set up one of the so-called split interest gift techniques to retain income for life and have it go to charity at their death. And there are great tax benefits from all of these gifts. So if you're interested in learning, if people are interested in learning about them, they'd be amazed at how much they can save in taxes by doing some of these things. And in fact, I'll give you just one example here.
Great.
Nobody knew exactly how much Jackie Onassis was worth when she passed away. But on the low end of the spectrum, she was worth 50 million. At the high end, it was probably 4 or 5 times that much, but it was not a small amount. Jackie paid no estate tax because she set up in her estate planning documents a trust, and the trust provided an income to her charity for a number of years, and at the end of that period of time, it went to her children. So that because she let charity use the income for a number of years, she got a 100% estate tax deduction, and there was nothing paid to the Internal Revenue Service. Rather, it all went to charity, the income, and then the principal amount, the corpus, stayed intact and went to her children. So that's the kind of thing that you can do. I mean, she's famous, and this was kind of talked about at estate planning seminars for years,
She
but
had
that's
some
called a
good
chari
advisors, didn't she?
yeah, that's called a charitable lead trust, and it's, one of the popular split interest techniques that you can use if you're in at that level. Most people don't have estate tax problems, but some people do.
And I think people in kind of getting out of the gate with philanthropy, or beginning to think about, I'd like to kind of wade in the water. I think a lot of people just kind of get overwhelmed. It's like, where do I even begin? And my pastor, Andy Stanley, always says, find what breaks your heart. And I think
Oh,
that's good general advice, but then you got to figure out what that is
yeah.
and the right organizations. And I think for me, I'm kinda answering my own question, and then I wanna I
No,
wanna hear your
that's good. That's good.
I
I
wanna
like
hear
that.
your thoughts because there's so many amazing charities out there just doing really good work, and to me, it gets really good when you find that charity that really connect and you really can get behind their work, and you may wanna give, but you may also wanna volunteer and serve on a board, and that's when it gets really good,
Yeah,
right? But you have
absolutely.
to find you have to you have to get out there and just volunteer.
Yeah, right. If you've had I find a lot of people where their heart is maybe where a loved one has died because of some disease or something that has touched them or someone they love, and they wanna help in that area. So that's where a lot of people find their fit. One good thing to do is to get on Charity Navigator. And there, Charity Navigator is a website where you can go. They really review all charities, and then you can click on a category. Let's say that you're interested in homelessness. Well, you can click on that category or supporting the poor. I don't know how they phrase it, but anyway, and then they'll give you a list of charities that are doing work in that area, and they will rate them according to financial accountability, whether they're doing the things they're supposed to do. So they have like 5 star, 4 star, 3 star. I think maybe it's just 4 star, 3 star, 2 star, and 1 star. So you can see if the charity that you've been thinking about is doing what it should be doing, if it's not spending too much on administration, for example. So that's a good
That
place
is
to
a
start.
fantastic suggestion to use Charity Navigator. It's a great starting
Yeah,
point, and ask people.
I always look there if my heart is tugging in a certain area, and we all get things in the mail. Maybe I get something in the mail and I think, oh dear, we really need to support this. Well, the first thing I'll do if I don't know the charity is get on Charity Navigator and check it out. Because you don't want to give to a charity if they're spending 50% of every dollar on administration. that's just too much, you know?
It
So that's I think that's a place you can start anyway.
is. That's really great advice. And let's talk about so our connection came through an amazing nonprofit called MAP International.
Mhm.
And you've been involved with MAP and serve on the board of directors. It was at a MAP event that you so graciously welcomed me. You introduced yourself and said, I'm on the board of directors, and just gave me such a warm welcome and made me feel so at home at that event where I really didn't know
Good.
anybody. So
I'm
let's
so
talk
glad.
a little bit about MAP and
Yeah, yeah.
some of the amazing work they're doing and your attraction to that organization. Why did you feel that
Yeah.
was a good fit for you personally?
Well, our association with MAP dates back, I'm gonna say 25 years ago, and we were sitting in church one Sunday, and the man who was then the CEO of MAP was invited to come to the pulpit and share a great need. There had been a disaster somewhere in the world. I can't remember if it was a hurricane or earthquake or what it was, but it was something like that. And he said, "We really need your dollars to help these people." And so my husband and I said, "Well, yeah, we'd like to help them, but what's this MAP organization?" So we did exactly what I'm suggesting people do. We went to Charity Navigator and looked up MAP. And we found out that MAP was incredibly efficient, that a lot of what they send to people who are hurting, who are just survived a hurricane, earthquake, whatever it is, whatever the disaster, fires, most of it is donated by the big pharmaceutical companies. So what MAP does is make sure that those medications, those medical supplies, and MAP supplies all kinds of things like medical supplies for operations, antibiotics, blood pressure meds, nutrition packs for kids. But we found out that if we were to give $1 to MAP, that MAP would get now today, I can't remember exactly what it was then, but today it's $63 of medicine out to people that need it. And MAP makes sure that when pallets of medicine go to any area where there's a need, that there's a physician there that can administer it properly, and there are people they've asked for it. We don't just indiscriminately send stuff that hasn't been requested. So they request it. We make sure they've got the people to properly administer it and to prescribe it and to use it so that these people can recover from whatever disaster they've encountered. Now, it's not always disasters. We've got clinics that we support all over. We have almost 100 clinics in the United States that we supply with medications. These are clinics for those who simply can't afford other types of medical care. They're not insured, maybe they not on Medicare yet, whatever. Anyway, we provide 100 clinics with medicines in the US, and then most of our medicines still go abroad to clinics all over. We've got them in Africa, we've got them in South America, we've got them in the Philippines. I can't even remember where they are, but they're all over the world. So and we also provide like, when we experience those horrible hurricanes, Helene and Milton, we provide hygiene kits. We send immediately kits to them that have toothbrush, toothpaste, soap, shampoo, shaving cream, first aid kits. Immediately we get those out because we figure everybody needs those, even if they're not on medication. So to me, MAP was an organization that used dollars well and was helping people that needed help. So that was kind of what drew us to MAP. And then after I was on the advisory board a while and I was asked to join the board. So it's been a great experience.
Such a fantastic organization, and if you've ever traveled to any of these third world countries and really see firsthand how little there is in way of social services and even medicine, things like prenatal vitamins can be so transformative, and they just don't
That's right.
they just don't have access to things like that that can make such a difference, and that's where MAP really helps fill that gap, and they take these prescription medicines that are near expiration date, but they're still very viable. So it's good for those manufacturers and just unbelievable for the recipients on the other end that are receiving them throughout the world. But MAP is, you think about the logistics of getting that medicine from point A, which is Brunswick, Georgia, that's where their warehouse
Yes.
is, to their partner organizations throughout the world, and
Mm.
what all is involved with that. I mean, it is really they are amazing at logistics and transportation to be able to do that.
Yes, it takes all of that, and we do send the prenatal vitamins, and that's not medicines per se, but definitely that's very important for the women to get those vitamins they need.
Antifungal creams, I mean, just little simple things that they just don't have access to that
Mhm.
that MAP can help with that. Well, thank you for sharing that, and I love how you speak about it. You sound like you're there 40 hours a week. I love the
No,
we
we have
part of how you talk about MAP, and that's, to be able to serve in a leadership role and a board of directors, that's definitely philanthropy in action too, to share not only your knowledge, but your heart. So
that's right.
very, very
Well, we
beautiful example.
we all have things that we can share. It might be our contacts, we're all influencers, I guess is what I'm saying. If we can share our knowledge, our contacts, money, of course, our actions, thoughts, deeds, etc. So lots of ways to give, and they're all important.
For sure, for sure. Well, so you spent much of your life in Metro Atlanta, but now you live in beautiful St. Simon's Island, Georgia. And I would imagine, I've never been there, but I would think it's a place of incredible beauty and inspiration. Let's talk about how, you kind of fill up your cup by living in such a beautiful place. And
Mm.
I'm sure you're finding God when you look out your window at the beautiful marshes or whatever you see. Let's talk about kind of your environment as a place of spiritual enrichment and how important that
Yes.
is to find those places.
Well, we are truly blessed to be here because it is beautiful. The marshes are beautiful, the live oak trees with the Spanish moss hanging down. Of course, the ocean, truly, and the birds. We have lots of birds, and they're all exciting to watch and interesting, of course. So, yes, it certainly draws you to God and just the miracle of creation. As you look at the ocean, it comes and goes, but it can't go further than this, and it goes back, and you just think, wow, that's just God's way of speaking to us, that He's a God of order, that He's the God of creation, that He's ordered this ocean to go so far and no further, and then back and forth every day, and it just continues, and it's truly a blessing to be here. And we have on St. Simon's Island, Epworth by the Sea, which is a beautiful conference center. Many people come here, bring groups here to just be inspired, to renew, have renewals. So Epworth by the Sea is a lovely, lovely site that is right on the marsh, which is beautiful and touches the lives of many people. Our church in Atlanta brings the youth down here every Labor Day weekend, and they love it. They can go to the ocean, and then they come back and have their devotionals and just kind of they're mixing, I guess, spiritual renewal with pleasure, but they think it's great. They love to come down, and I think the youth director had about 40 of them down here last Labor Day weekend. So it's a great place, it really is. We're blessed. We're very blessed to be here.
I bet looking out your windows, you've been inspired by the natural beauty
Mm.
to create your beautiful words and that in turn inspire other people. So
Well, we actually have a condo on the beach, so when we look out, we see the ocean, but other people are on the marsh, and that's gorgeous. I mean, the marsh is beautiful, just, incredible, but you can just get in your car and drive, and you're driving through this with these oak trees and the Spanish moss hanging off, and you feel like they're decorated for a party. That's always the way I feel about the Spanish moss. And that's not a parasite, by the way. Spanish moss is not a parasite. It doesn't hurt the tree. It just looks beautiful.
And it's so very Southern too.
It is so southern. Lots of
Is it?
magnolia trees down here, and they're in full bloom. So you've got the flowers almost all year. Just beautiful.
A bit jealous you get to spend all your time there and not in Atlanta traffic.
Would come down and see us. We'd love to have you.
I would love that.
Really?
So we have a shared love of Africa, and you've been there on a number of occasions. So I'd love to talk about kind of your experience there, what you saw, and the ministry that you're involved with over there.
Sure. Yes. Involvement in Africa is with the nation of Liberia on the West Coast. And I think it must have been, I'm going to say around 2009, maybe. My husband and I went over with a team of people that were helping with an evangelism campaign or meeting with Dr. Henry Blackaby being the main speaker. He's an author and a pastor and done a lot of things. But he was going to speak and we were going to just assist. And so we went. And while we were there, we had the opportunity, or I had the opportunity, to meet with some of the women leaders in Liberia. And I had several different occasions. And every time I would meet with them, I would ask, "What is your greatest need?" And the only answer they ever gave me was education. Because their schools had been destroyed by the civil wars. They'd had 14 years of civil wars. And in that horrible time, many of the buildings were either defaced or destroyed. So they wanted schools for their children. And I thought, well, I went home. We left and came home. And I talked to my co-president. I was co-president of women of our church at that time. And I talked to my co-president and said, "Oh, they really need schools in Africa. Do you think we could build one?" And she's an optimist. So she said, "Oh, sure, I'm sure we can build one." So we took the idea to the board and they looked at us like we had gone crazy. It's like they didn't even know what to say when we suggested this. Like the first question was, "Where is Liberia? And why do
Yeah.
we want to build a school there?" And then somebody else said, "Well, don't we have enough to do right here?" So we backed off and suggested that we appoint a task force to study the issue. So that's what we agreed to that day. We appointed a task force. The task force met for several weeks and got a lot of information, particularly from a church in Indiana that had built a school there. I think maybe they'd built more than one school, but anyway, we got information from them, and they were very encouraging. And about the same time, the magazine that our denomination writes for women came out, and in that magazine there was an article by the president of Liberia, who was the first woman president the country had ever elected. And she said, "My country needs the church. Where is the church?" And it kind of like it just went right through our hearts. So after the task force did its work and figured we could do this, and this article by the president of Liberia, the board voted unanimously to build the school. So then we started raising money. And what we found out is whatever amount you think you need initially, you can at least double that amount, maybe triple that amount. You're going to need more than that. But God was gracious. He provided the funds. So we took mission teams over to build the school. And as they build the school, we did do some work, but then most of the work was done by the
Mhm.
Liberians. Then we just paid for them to be there and to build the school. And we came back with mission teams after it was built. We brought our kids over, our teenagers over. We brought a medical team over at one point in time. So, it was a great opportunity and experience for us. And we have the mission still there. They rescue street girls, bring them in, educate them, train them, heal them. It's really wonderful. So it's been a huge blessing.
And you said that you went over during Ebola
We
too.
did, and that was scary. I yeah. We prayed a lot during that trip. We planned this to take this medical team over, and that was before Ebola broke out. And then we heard about Ebola that had just broken out, and, so we prayed and decided we would go because we felt like they needed us, but it was, a step in faith, and we would every morning, we would meet and pray for God's protection, and we prayed the number psalm. We prayed that all day long, each one of us individually, whatever we were doing, because it was it was scary. Ebola, if you get it, most of the people die. So and they didn't have a cure at that point. We prayed hard, and God blessed us. We got on the plane to go home, and the flight attendant said, "Is there a doctor on board?" Well, we had, I think, 4 doctors on our team. "Is there a doctor on board? We've got a sick patient." This was before we took off, and I thought, "Oh, dear." And, of course, one of our doctors immediately stood up, and I started praying because he could have had Ebola. But God was good. He was fine, and they got the patient that was sick off the plane and to the hospital, and I don't know if he had Ebola or not. When you're in a situation like that, you lean hard on God. You just say, "God, you're our only hope, and we trust you to get us through this." So he did, and
Absolutely.
and we knew the people at home were praying hard too, because they didn't want us to go, really.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. That fear can keep you grounded.
Yes, it can.
You can easily talk yourself out
That's
of
right.
whatever. Cool full circle that, and I'm sure you know this, Emory was very involved with the whole Ebola outbreak and
Yes.
um, developing quarantine protocols.
Very proud.
Yeah. So when COVID hit, a lot of, they had a lot of that knowledge in place
Yes.
along with
They
CDC.
do great work, and they took care of Doctor Brantley and his nurse. I can't remember her name, but it was Emory that said, "We'll step up to the plate and do this." So, of course, we
Love
were
it.
all very proud that Emory did that.
That's big love right
And that
there.
they lived. Both of
Mhm.
them lived.
And they had Ebola?
They both had Ebola,
I don't know their story.
and as a result, Doctor Brantley's blood they took his blood and made a vaccine somehow to help other people.
Okay, well, I could keep you all day long just chatting about philanthropy and Jesus and good work. But the tagline of Uncommon Philanthropy is let go.
Mm,
So I
love
would
that.
love you to wrap us up. So if you can just say let go, however Miss Zoe would say let go, and then just kind of preach a little bit on what letting go means to you in terms of
Wow.
philanthropy.
Alright, well, thank you, Rena, for this opportunity first, and I wish you all the best with your books, your podcast, your encouragement of people to continue or to even begin being philanthropists. So, let go, and that just means give it to God. I mean, it's all His anyway,
It
and just
is.
let Him tell us what to do with it, and so we can just be free to be philanthropists because it's not our money anyway, and don't you love giving away other people's money? Isn't that fun?
It's so fun. And I love the example that you and your husband are setting of being, just continuing to let go. A lot of people that just take that pass and they're like, "Yeah, we've done our work. We earn this, time to relax and just be retired." And you are doing the exact opposite. You are letting go and continuing to make the world a better
Well,
place.
thank you, Rena. Praise God.
Praise God. It's
Yeah,
a delight to know you, Mrs. Zoe.
and you too, Rena. Thank you so
Okay.
much. Have a wonderful
Okay.
day.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.